Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the matrix labs, the video number 41. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have still working on discovering the different findings for the testimony report concerning the performance issues and the security issues and other issues concerning the Active Directory. We have seen that this report contains a lot of tests, actually 644 tests, uh, scanning a lot of issues concerning the Active Directory. One of the things, for example, we will see later that it will check for the free space on the C partition for each domain controller. This is very, very critical, because if the free space on the C partition for the domain controller is less than 20%, there will be some performance issues concerning the domain controller and the Active Directory. This is not, for example, done by the DCDiag tool test or the repadmin tool, for example. So this test actually contains a bunch of tests that are very, very useful. It will check a lot of things, not only the normal tests done by the DCDiag tool or repadmin, but a lot of things that also will affect the Active Directory. So we have stopped the last time at the finding concerning our primary domain controller. We have stopped at a test that will check for the operating system for the domain controller. We all know that that Windows Server 2012 R2, it is expired or its life cycle is ended. So the test will check if you have an operating system less than Windows Server 2016. It will see if you have still the Windows Server, for example, 2012 R2. It will warn you or you will fail this test. So we have seen the last time that even though I have Windows Server 2025 data center, but it was not recognized or by this test, or the test didn't see that this is a new operating system from Microsoft. Even it's still in the preview edition, but it doesn't recognize that. I think because the script was done before Windows Server 2025 was released, the preview edition at least. So we have failed this test, but we are sure that we are working with an operating system or with a newer operating system than Windows Server 2012 R2. So let's see. Sorry guys. So let's see the next test. Here it's saying service status. Here is saying that Active Directory is dependent on several Windows services. If one of more of these services is not configured for automatic startup, this is one first. So first you need to know that these services, we will see what are these services, should start automatically, not manually. AD functions may be partially or completely unavailable until the services are manually started. So these services should start automatically. They should not start manually, because if they start manually, a part of the AD functionality uh, will not work, or a part of the Active Directory functions will not work, or the Active Directory in general will not work. So we need to make sure that these services are always running automatically. Okay, every time we restart the server or every time we log into the server, for example, to check something, we need to make sure these services are running. So one idea I have seen, that we can run a script, okay, to make sure every time we log in or every time the server is restarted, that these services are running. And if they are not running, it can, or the script can start them automatically. I think we can do something like that. I think I will ask the AI tools to create a script to make sure that every time I open the domain controller or restart the domain controller, it needs to check if these services are running, and if they are not running, it should start them. Okay, so first let's see what are these services. We will discuss them one by one. Why are these services critical for the Active Directory functionality? So we will see that one by one. But first thing, he's saying that we need to make sure these services are running automatically, and he is focusing upon two services we need to make sure that they are stopped or disabled. Okay, this is the spooler service and something called XBL game save and XBL authentication manager. We can see from the name, we can deduct, or we can suspect it is related to the Xbox. Okay, normally we don't see Xbox services installed on a Windows server. This is generally available on clients or Windows clients operating system like Windows 10. So this will not be available, but if it is available, which is I think is not possible, you should make sure that they are disabled, because they are a security hazard or security point. And for the spooler service, which is related to the printing service, we need to make sure it is disabled. Why? Because first of all, this is a security hazard, because a hacker can use this service to hack the domain controller, and another security issue, not to print something from the domain controller. If you need to print something from the domain controller, you can export it outside in a file and then take this file and print it on a client. You should not print anything on the domain controller. Or if you need to print something, open the printer spooler or the spooler service, print what you need, and then disable it, because this service can be hacked. Okay, so he is saying here that he will check all of these services are running except for 1, 2, and 3. These 3 services should be disabled. Okay, so we will see that, and we will see what are these names. So for example, what is ADWS, what is DNS, what is DFS? From the names, if you are technical or you are a technical guy, maybe you can know what are these services, but if you are not technical, we will not know what is these services. So because here he is listing these services in or by the service name, not the display name. Okay, so the service name, this is the way that Windows call the service, but the display name, it is the name that we as non-technical guys can know this service, what it is exactly. I will show you an example, but first of all, this is the test. It will make sure that all of these services are running except for the spooler service, XBL game save, and XBL authentication manager. We see I have 91% of the services are running and automatic, and 8%, which is 3 services, the spooler is enabled, the XBL game is enabled, the XBL authentication manager is enabled. So we need to make sure these are all disabled. If we go there, first of all, one of the good things of the report, it's saying that why you should disable the spooler service, which is related to the printing. Here it is an article from STIG or from the Department of Defense of the United States. Here he is stating why you should disable, for example, the spooler service. But here he is saying something here. He is saying that why these services should be enabled. For example, all of these we are talking about. Let's see here if he is giving us an explanation. No, he's not giving us an explanation, but this is the security recommendation. So he's saying Windows servers that are critical for directory service, the Active Directory operation, must be configured for automatic startup. So this is a security recommendation. You should make sure that all of the services dependent, or the Active Directory dependent services, or the services that Active Directory depend on, should be started automatically. So this is not the test didn't get this, or it didn't say that from its own. It is referring to a recommendation or security recommendations by the Department of Defense of the United States. So this is the article. Let's go and see these services one by one, or the name of these services one by one. Here you go, for example, ADWS, it is referring to Active Directory Web Services. This is the display name, and this is the service name. Okay, I can show you an example. If we open like that, right click and run, and then type services.msc, this is the console of services. If you go to any service, for example, the spooler, where is the spooler? Or we can see something here, for example, called spooler. It's called print spooler. Okay, if we open it, we can see the service name is spooler but the display name is printers plural. Let's go to the report. If we go and go to the last one, if you go, let me show you something here. Where is the spooler service? Okay, if you go to number one, okay, here you go, here it is. So this is a spooler, this is the service name. Okay, here is the, if we open that, this is the service name, and the other one is the display name. The report, okay, is checking the service with the service name. So if you see a service name and you don't know what it is actual name or its display name, you can open the services and try to see what is its display name, or you can ask directly the AI tools to get you the display name. So anyway, let's close this one. So for example, if you can see here that this service is automatically start up, okay, the report says it should be disabled on the domain controller. So this is one of the things. If we close that, here let's go and see. He's saying he's giving us all of the services. For example, here is the AWS, it's Active Directory Web Services. This is the display name. DFS, it is the DFS namespace. This is related to distributed file system service. We will see that now, and we'll ask the AI tools to give us a brief explanation about each service and why and its relationship to the Active Directory functionality. Here we see that DFS or Directory File Service Replication, DNS, we all know this service, event log, Windows event log, event system, COM plus event system, KDC, which is the Kerberos key distribution center, and we can go further, LAN server, which is called server, LAN workstation, which is called workstation, netlogin, this is the netlogin service, NTDS, which is Active Directory Domain Services, okay, RPCSS is remote procedure call, SAMSS, it is security account manager, spooler, the print spooler. We can see from the report that all of these services are automatically, it's running and they are automatic. So we can see that we have all of these are working perfectly. Okay, if we go further, we will see we have two services. It's not stopped. If you can see there, it is running. Okay, and if we go to the startup type, it is auto, so we need to disable it and make it so we make to stop the service and make it disabled. Okay, we need to do that. Okay, and the last one is the XBL authentication manager. It is stopped, but it is not disabled, so we need to make sure that all of these are or at least these services are disabled, the spooler, the XBL game, and the authentication manager. So first of all, we need to uh, have a hint about why these services are important and how the AD functionality is affected if one of these services are not running. Okay, if we go remember the video concerning the DC Diag tool, we remember that we have a slide, or Mr. Low van der Poel slide was stating when he was discussing the DC Diag tool that some services AD or Active Directory depend on. Remember this slide, we have seen that, or we have discussed before, that all of these services Active Directory depend on them. The Windows time, inter-site messaging, we have seen and discussed all of these services in details. But what we can do, we can go and take all of these services. For example, here we go, and we will take all of these, or we can do something here. We can take all of these services, okay, copy, and we can go to, for example, cloud, and say these are services that Active Directory depend on, listed by their service name. Okay, let's tell them, or tell it to explain the relationship between these services and the functionality of Active Directory. And what will happen if they are not started? Okay, give me the display name, okay, for each service, and note we have 3 services that are not related to Active Directory. Okay, in these services. Okay, so let's put what we have here, and we can close it with the quota, and then we can take all of these, Control C, and then try to see the answer of Claude. And actually I can go and ask, for example, ChatGPT here, ask the same question and give it, or let's give it an answer. If we go to Perplexity and ask the same question, and let's see what is the answer actually. Again, let's go there and see here. So if we go and see the discussion or the answer, let's see what is the answer of Claude. If you go there and do like that and try to read the answer like this one and tell him to read out loud.
Keep these services running for a healthy AD environment. I'll explain the relationship between these services and Active Directory, their functionality, and what happens if they're not started. I'll also provide the display name for each service. Let's go through them. ADWS, Active Directory Web Services, display name. Active Directory Web Services relationship provides a web services interface to Active Directory domain services. If not started, remote management tools that rely on web services won't function properly. DNS, domain name system, display name. DNS server relationship, critical for Active Directory as it resolves domain names to IP addresses. If not started, AD can't function properly, domain controllers can't be located. DFS, distributed file system, display name. DFS namespace relationship provides a unified view of shared folders across multiple servers. If not started, users may have difficulty accessing shared resources in a distributed environment. DFSR, Distributed File System Replication, display name. DFS replication relationship replicates files between domain controllers, crucial for sysful replication. If not started, group policy and logon scripts may not replicate correctly. Event log display name. Windows event log relationship logs events related to AD operations and other system events. If not started, troubleshooting AD issues becomes difficult due to lack of logging. Event system display name. Complus event system relationship supports Complus component services used by some AD operations. If not started, some AD operations that rely on Complus may fail. KDC, Kerberos Key Distribution Center, display name. Kerberos Key Distribution Center relationship, crucial for AD authentication, issues tickets for network resources. If not started, users can't authenticate to domain resources. LAN-man workstation display name. Workstation relationship provides network connections for client computers to servers. If not started, network resource access may fail. LAN-man server display name. Server relationship supports file, print, and named pipe sharing over the network. If not started, file and print sharing in the domain may not function. NetLogon display name. NetLogon relationship maintains the secure channel between this computer and the domain controller. If not started, domain authentication fails. NTDS, NT Directory Services, display name. Active Directory Domain Services Relationship. This is the core Active Directory service. If not started, AD is effectively offline. Most domain operations fail. RPCSS, Remote Procedure Call System Service, display name. Remote Procedure Call, RPC, relationship facilitates communication between AD components and clients. If not started, many AD operations and other Windows services fail. SAMSS, Security Account Manager Subsystem Service, display name. Security Accounts Manager relationship stores local security accounts crucial for AD user authentication. If not started, local account management and some authentications fail. W32 Time Display Name. Windows Time Relationship maintains time synchronization in the domain, crucial for Kerberos. If not started, authentication may fail due to time discrepancies. The following services are not directly related to Active Directory. Spooler, Print Spooler, XBL Game Save, Xbox Live Game Save, XBL Auth Manager, Xbox Live Auth Manager. These last three services are not critical for AD functionality, but the print spooler is often used in domain environments for network printing. If any of the AD-related services, 1 to 14, are not started, various aspects of Active Directory functionality will be impaired or completely non-functional, potentially leading to authentication failures, replication issues, and overall domain instability. It's crucial to keep these services running for a healthy AD environment. Copy. Retry. Claude can make.
So we can see here that the answer is very, very detailed, but we can tell it to arrange output in a table. So we can see it in a more organized format. So as we can see here now, it is already organized in a more convenient way. If we go and see that, here is the can go further. I can download it. For example, here is to download the file, and let's see the format of this file. It is MD. I don't know how we can open this, but we can simply copy the content, okay, and go and paste it in a Word file. If you go there, and just to make sure that we can take the format, or we can paste it. If you go there and tell it to paste, I don't think so. This is correct. So we can tell it to the Control Z and then tell him paste the original format maybe. Okay, anyway, we can go and see the answer displayed on the screen. It is very, very simple. We can see here that we have the service name, we have the display name. Can I go there like that, or I can go further? Okay, this is the service name, the display name, okay, the relationship. Okay, if we go further, and we can see the last column. Okay, here you go. This is if it's not started. So we can see very, very organized output. We can download it, we can copy it, we can do a lot of things. Okay, very, very simple thing and very, very organized answer. So let's see the answer of ChatGPT, we go further like that. Here are the services, but let's first tell it to arrange in a table just to make it sure, or to make it in a more organized format. As we can see here now, he give us the all of these in a table. So can we read it? Let's see if he can read it. If we tell him like that, expand table. Now let's see the answer of uh, ChatGPT. He can read it. We can read it in this thing. Okay, let's try to read it.
Here is a table summarizing the services related to Active Directory, their display names, roles, and the impact if they are not started.
Okay, I think we can't read it from this perspective, but let's try to do like that. And can we read it? I don't think so, but let's see if we can read loud.
Arrange in a table. ChatGPT. Here is a table summarizing the services related to Active Directory.
Okay, I think we need to read it manually by ourselves. Here we can see this is the AWS Active Directory Web Services, provides a web service interface for accessing Active Directory data. Impact if not started. Remote management tools may not function properly. Okay. DNS, this is the service name. Display name DNS server provides more resolution services crucial for locating domain controllers. Clients and services may not be able to locate the domain controllers. DFS namespace, provide a unified namespace for sharing resources across a network. DFS namespaces will not be available. I think this is very generic answer. It's not as detailed, or it's not easily to be understood. Okay, we can see DFS enable for replication across multiple servers. Okay, he's saying that, for example, one thing here is good. Group policy updates may fail to replicate across domain controllers, but here he didn't state as Claude that this is related to the sysvol folder replication. I think the service, this answer is not good for me. I think the better one is for Claude. Okay, so this is not a good answer. I think it's very generic and not easily understood. If we go to Perplexity and see the answer here, we can see that I think this is more organized. Let's see, we can read it. Okay, I think uh, let's see if we can read it loudly. I'm just checking the services. Uh, okay, here these servers not directly related. DNS, no. Okay, it's not directly related to the Active Directory, but Active Directory depends on it. So this is not this is not a good answer, or this is not correct answer. But I think also if you go and check the answers, I think the best one so far is the one for Claude. Okay, he's stating all of these services and how they are related to the Active Directory in a simple way. So let's go again to the test. We can see here that this is or we need two now. So we have seen each one of these services. What does it do exactly? What is the display name of the service? How it is related to the Active Directory? Okay, so this is why all of these services should be started automatically. Again, I think I can ask Claude to one thing here, to create a script and attach to be run or to be run by schedule task in Windows Server operating system on the domain controller to make sure the 14 services are or their startup 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 status is automatic and they are actually running. If not, make them or make their or if not change their startup status to automatic and if not started, start them. And the last 3 services, make sure they are stopped and disabled. Let's see if we can, or let's see the answer of Claude concerning our request. Okay, let's close. I think we can need to restart it again or start the request again. So as we can see here, if we go and check the answer of Claude, he is saying that the script will do the following: define 2 arrays, one for Active Directory service that should be running and set to automatic, and another for services that should not or should be stopped and disabled. Okay, this is what I need exactly. Includes a logging function to record actions. It's very, very good. It will log the actions of the script. Okay, it rotates through the AD services, ensuring each is set to automatic startup and it is running. If not, changes the startup type and start the service. It rotates through the services to be disabled, okay, ensuring each is stopped and set to disable startup. Log all actions and any errors encountered. To use this script, you save the script and open the scheduler or the task scheduler and create a task, set it to run with highest privilege, configure it to run on schedule to suit your needs, okay, and tell him for action, choose startup a program, then type in the section of program and script PowerShell.exe, add arguments, execution policy pass, so and so. Uh, very, very good because he's telling you the PowerShell to bypass the execution of this script. Very, very good answer and very, very technical or it is very written in a very technical way, a good way actually, ensuring that the account running the task had the necessary permissions to manage services. This script will help maintain the desired state of your Active Directory services, ensuring critical services are running and unnecessary ones are disabled. It also provides logging for auditing and troubleshooting purposes. So we can see that a very good answer. And here it is, you can all check or take this script and run it. If we go and ask Claude or ask ChatGPT to provide the same answer, actually nowadays all of the answers of ChatGPT 4.0 is very generic and not uh, as before. Okay, here also is stating but for example, here is not saying that you need to set execution policy to bypass. So this is 1 point for Claude. So this is a good thing actually. So Claude 3.5 Sonnet surpasses this or surpasses the answer of ChatGPT 4.0. So very good answer actually. Uh, Another thing I need I or this is okay. So we can now to to make sure that we can pass this thing or we can pass this test, we need to create a script like that to make sure all of these services are running, okay, and the three services are disabled. So we can see that this is a very good test. We can know from it a lot, okay. And the next test here is saying LDAP conductivity. Here is making sure that we have the LDAP ports are opened and the LDAP-S ports are open. Remember that I have, from a previous video, I have enabled LDAP-S on the domain controllers, the two domain controllers, and now the ports are available. So this test was run before I enable LDAP-S. So if we run it again, we can pass all of these, okay? So this is one thing, and I will show you all actually the result of the test. I'll show you a video that I have run the test and I have succeeded, okay. LDAP insecure bindings, also this is related to the LDAP configuration. We have done this before, we have already the LDAP S enabled, so this is also related to the LDAP. We have the LDAP binding, remember we have LDAP binding and signing, we have done this before, so we actually can we will pass this test as well. So these are the two tests, and then the ping connectivity. Here he will try to ping the domain controller and he will see if it is responding to the ping. Okay, so the ping connectivity, very critical test to make sure that the DNS records are correct and he can reach the domain controller. So we can see this is the data concerning the ping test. Okay, I will show you all a video uh, concerning all of these tests, but I am just discussing the test with you all before showing you the video how to do that, okay. Then the next test here is making sure that some ports are opened on the domain controller. You need to make sure all of these ports are opened on the domain controller for the communication with the domain controller to be successful. For example, some of these ports are related to the Active Directory replication. Okay, some of these are related to the DNS ports. Some of these are related to the SMB or the file sharing ports. So a lot of things actually. We need to make sure all of these ports are opened and bypassed by the firewall. Okay, so uh, one thing here we have a small program. I will show you a small program. Through it you can see all of the ports on your domain controller if they are open or not. This can be done through script, or for example, but there is a very simple tool. If we go first of all, before showing you the tool, there is a free tool through the sys internal tools or Microsoft sys internal tools. There is a free tool that you can open it. It is in a graphical interface. So this tool it is one of the tools of the Microsoft sys internal suite. Okay, through it you can know all of the ports that are opened or closed on your domain controller. Okay, first of all, here this test is saying that you have your net BIOS, the TCP 139 port. This is related to the net BIOS port. Okay, here is saying that you should disable this port. I think I have discussed before with you guys what is the net BIOS. If I didn't do that, a net BIOS, this is a legacy protocol or an old protocol that it is in some way related to the DNS protocol, something like the DNS protocol, but it was used previously or in the old days with the older versions of Windows. It's now not needed anymore, so you should disable it, okay, completely, and disable the NetBIOS protocol and the port related to the NetBIOS protocol. We will see, and actually I will ask the AI tools to provide us with what is the port of TCP 139. So for example, if I ask Claude, what is the TCP port 139 and what service or what protocol uses it? So let's see first, and I will show you all something, a new tool, okay, that uh, will show you the open and closed ports on your workstation or domain controller. So he's saying that port 139, it is associated with NetBIOS, okay. Here is a breakdown. Protocol NetBIOS, it is used for file and sharing or file and print sharing on older version of Windows. This port facilitates NetBIOS communication between a computer and a local on a local area network functionality used for name servicing. So it is used for file and print chaining and name service, something like the DNS, data diagram service and session service. It allows computers to communicate with a network segment and share resources. Historical contexts. Port 139 was commonly used in Windows NT, 95, 98, and ME. While still supported in modern Windows versions for backward compatibility, it is less commonly used now. A modern alternative. Now we have the SMB protocol, okay, so we can use it on port 445, and actually we have the DNS for name services or for name resolution services. Security consideration. This is the one thing we can focus on. Open port 39 can be a security risk if exposed to the internet. It has been targeted by virus worms and exploits historically. Very, very good answer. And this is actually why we need to close this port. Many firewalls and security policies often block this port by default on external facing interfacing. Relation to SMP. While port 139 is used for NetBIOS session service, it's often associated with SMB file sharing, as SMB can use NetBIOS for transport. Okay, in summary, TCP port 139 is used by NetBIOS session protocol service, primarily for file and print sharing in older Windows networking environments. While still supported, it is used has been diminished in the favor of more modern protocols. Okay, very, very good answer, and this why we need to close it. Okay, so let me show you all the program that we can use on the domain controller to check of the open port. So if you go to my sys internal suites, we have something or a program called TCP over, or let's see, this is where is the TCP? Let me, I think this is the one, but let me make sure. Okay, here it is. This is TCP view 64-bit. If I tell him to run it like that and tell him yes, now we can see all of the ports. Okay, you can see the TCP version 4 ports, that's it, and we can see TCP version 6 ports. Okay, so that's the moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Here we can see that this is the TCP ports, TCP version 6 ports, UDP version 4 ports, and UDP version 6. So we can see if we have the TCP ports, we can see all of the ports listed here. If you go further, we can see, for example, I think 139 is enabled here. If we go there, if we go to this one, I think, okay, this is, let me see if we have the TCP port. Okay, if we go further, I think I have 139. So here is 139. Okay, we can see the local port 139. So we can see this is a very, very good one. And you can see every one of these ports and the module or the service using the port. Okay, for example, here is port 443. It is used by Avera Spotlight. This is my antivirus, I think. So we can see here this is established between, this is the IP of my local, or this is the IP of my laptop, and it is connecting to I think Avera server. This is the IP address, and I think this is the ports we are working, or remotely on the port. This is the remote port, and this is the local port. So we can see very, very detailed one. For example, for the Teams, Microsoft Teams, we can see that I have it already opened. We can see the communication or the ports, the remote and local ports. So very, very good way you can know the ports. For example, if I think I right click on this one, we can kill the process or close the connection. Who is, okay, for example, you can know who is this service. It will go to the internet, I think, and open fail to get who is information. Okay, I think this is also one thing to know what is this service exactly. Anyway, so this is a way you can see the open and close ports on your primary domain controller. We will see how we can disable. You can simply disable the port by disabling the NetBIOS service. Okay, so this is one thing. And if you go further in the report, RDP port is open for remote desktop connection. To happen, we need to have the RDP port opened. Okay, and if we go further, we will see that the RDP security, you need to make sure that the RDP connection, it is secured or it is encrypted. Okay, you can make sure of this option to be enabled using group policy. We will see how we can do this. Also, this is uh, stated in a link by the Department of Defense. You can go and make sure remote desktop services must be configured with the client connection encryption to be set to required. So you need to make sure that the client connecting to the server using remote desktop services, the connection by the client should be encrypted and should be required. It's not uh, it's not an optional thing. It should be required by the client to encrypt the connection between him and the server using the remote desktop services. We can do that using a registry key, I think, from the client side, and you need also to set this from the server side. You need to make sure both sides have this option enabled, okay, to make sure that the connection is encrypted. Okay, so I think let's go to the video and see. Here I have already recorded from uh, the first thing here from the services. Remember, this is the first thing we have started the video with, but let me go and go to the first one. If you go there, here you go. Let's go, and then let's see how we can uh, uh, see how this, or how we can implement uh, this test. So here I go to my domain controller and try to see if the services to see the spooler service. Okay, if it is I need to make sure that the spooler service is disabled and the Xbox service is disabled. So I go to the services, go to standard, and then disable the spooler service. Or printer spooler in this regard, the display name is called printer spooler. So you don't have something called spooler. It's the printer spooler. So we need to disable it. Okay, so we need to stop the service and then disable the service. So here I am trying to ask Claude or ask ChatGPT for why we need to close this service. See, we say there is a security hazard, something called print nightmare vulnerability. If we can stop there, we say that the saving print support is recommended on the domain controllers because there is security risk, something called print nightmare vulnerability. The print explorer has been associated with several critical vulnerabilities such as print nightmare vulnerability, which can allow attacker to execute arbitrary code with system privileges. Disabling the print explorer on the domain controller mitigates this risk. Elevation of privilege. Attacker can exploit vulnerabilities in the printer spooler service to gain elevated privileges, potentially compromising the domain controller and by extension the entire network. Okay, so this is why we need to disable it. And one of the things here, if we go further with the answer, he's saying that the best practice, if this service we will need to run only the essential service on domain controller, since the printer support is not typically required for the core functionality of the domain controller, disabling it adhere to this principle. So there is a principle only to run the necessary services to run or to do certain to run certain services to do certain functions. Okay, do not leave unnecessary services you don't need, okay, or they are not doing anything, or you don't need them to run anything. So you need to disable what or the services that are not needed by your network. Okay. And here is giving you the way to disable the spooler service. You can do it through the services console or using PowerShell command. Okay. So this was the answer of ChatGPT for all. The same was said by Claude. So they said the same answer, or they are giving the same answer. Here I'm asking it a question. What if I need to print something from the domain controller? He will give me a couple of options. First, you can enable the printer spooler service, print what you need and then disable it, or export the thing that you need to print and then print it on a client. Okay, we use a different machine to print. Okay, networking printing, if you, or you can okay, so in Crucial, or in something is saying here, while it is crucial to keep the printer spooler server disabled domain control for security reasons, you can still print documents by temporarily enabling the service, use another machine to print, okay, or setting up network printing. These methods ensure you maintain a balance between security and functionality. Very, very good answer, actually. So he is giving you alternatives to do that, okay? Or you can print on a network printer, so you don't need to. But I think even if you are printing to a network printer, you should enable the spooler service. Okay, so I am here disabling the service and I need to stop it. Okay. Now we need to disable the second service, which is Xbox. Okay, we have another thing which is called Xbox XBL Authentication Manager. So you can see here failed to, it is manual, we need to disable it. It's not, it is stopped already. So we need to disable it actually. So here I'm trying to know what is this one or what is this service in specific. So I'm asking the AI tool to give me an answer. It's saying here, okay, it is related to the Xbox, okay. Manage Xbox Live authentication and authorization. Designed to handle authentication authorization for Xbox Live services, okay. And it's saying that this is generally used on Windows client systems, not on servers. So this is strange to have this service installed on Windows Server 2025 data center. This is how you can disable it using the PowerShell or through the service console. Okay, disable it, apply and okay. So now we can go to the next test, LDAP conductivity. Okay, so here what I'm doing, okay, here I am running the test again to make sure I don't have any or to make sure that I will succeed in the test. So first here I am telling it to run it on my domain controller. So we'll do that, DCSM0125, and then we press enter. He can't run the command, or he didn't recognize get PS services, so we need to have, or I will ask the AI tool to give me a script to check all of these services are running or not, and if they are automatic, set to automatic or not. We can ask the AI tool to do that. So again, we go to ChatGPT 4o and ask it. Here I'm asking tell it modify the following code. I have got it from the page or from the testimony report. Okay, to get, okay, so I will show you all what I mean by that. To get these services status. Okay, so here we can go. This is the script. So here is the script. We need to take it and modify it to see if they are running or not. So now you will see that this script will give us the service and the startup service, or the startup type, if we can say that. If we go there and run it through the PowerShell ISE, here we go, we can run it. And actually it's a very good script. It will give us the running services in green and the non-running services in red. Okay, so first we need to put the domain controller name. Okay, DCSM0125. So you can see here the AI tools are providing scripts in a very efficient way, and you can modify it and you can get what you need, but just describe it correctly. Okay, so we can see here all of the services. Okay, the status, it is running. Okay, only the not running one, he didn't find XBL game. Okay, he didn't find this service. For example, one service is stopped. Okay, we have the printer spooler is stopped, but here the status is stopped, but I need the startup status. Okay, if it is automatic or manual, we need to modify this script to do that. But for a simple test, we are now saying that all of these services are running, okay, and what are stopped, but we need to modify it to give us the startup type of the service. So I need to modify the script, ask the AI tool to provide the service status and the service startup type. Okay, I'm just saving the conversation between me and ChatGPT for also I can return back and uh, see this chat later. Okay, now we can save and then we can continue our work. So we can go to the next test, which is LDAP conductivity. Okay, we can run the test and we'll make sure I have already enabled LDAP-S, so I think when I run the test again using this command, I think I will succeed. Okay, we can see, for example, some are false, but if I run the test, because I have already enabled LDAP-S, you will see that all of these false things are turned to true. Okay, so now with SM0125, I have already added LDAP-S in a previous video. Here we can see all of these. If we go up, I'll show you the status here. We can see all of these are true. True, 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 true. So LDAP-S is true. Binding is true. LDAP-S is true. LDAP normal is true. LDAP-S binding is true. So all of these here are false, for example. LDAP binding is false. All of these now are true. So we have succeeded. LDAP-S is false, but in our display, or what was displayed, now it is true. So now we have passed the test because we have already enabled LDAP-S and LDAP binding. Remember, here is LDAP binding true, LDAP-S is true. And these are the ports. So now we have succeeded in the test. We can go further with the next test, which is LDAP insecure binding. We have already secure binding, so we don't need to uh, uh, go further with the test because we have already LDAP-S enabled and we have LDAP channel binding and signing. We have done this in a previous video. So he's checking if you have insecure bindings. We have secure bindings. We have channel binding and LDAP signing, so we have secure bindings. Okay. Now ping conductivity. Okay, so we can run the test again to make sure we don't have insecure bindings or LDAP insecure bindings. So we can go there and paste. We can just change the domain controller name. V125, okay, and then we can, simple as that, you can run a custom PowerShell command to get or to run the test or an individual test. So we can see, I think no data is available, so we are good to go. Now we have ping conductivity. Okay, now he is trying to ping the domain controller, so we can see the data and we can see a lot of useful data. He's getting the network adapter setting, a lot of things. So we can see this test will ping the IP address of the domain controller and get some data related to the domain controller. Okay, so let's see also. If we take this command and run it, we will see the result. Okay, so you can copy it. So for example, if you failed to ping the domain controller, then there is a problem with the TCP protocol maybe, or the problem is the firewall. DCSM. Okay, now we can go and continue. So he is pinging now, okay. He's pinging using the TCP version 6 protocol. But anyway, you can see here is the result. Okay, it's succeeded one. Okay, uh, this is the IP version 6. This is the loopback IP address. And we can see it is true, ping succeed, and we have everything working perfectly. So let's go to the other one, which is the closed and open ports. Here I asked the AI tool to give me uh, this port TCP139. Okay, what is the TCP139? And actually, something here. Let me go to the report. If we go there, let me go to here. We can see that every port, uh, for example, he is giving us. I think here is not stating which ports are for which services. So let me do something here. He's saying port 389, 636, 3268, 3269 are tested as LDAP ports. Okay, so this is one thing. Port, all of the other ports are TCP ports, I think, but just wait for a moment. So let's continue, guys. Here, I think we need to know what are these ports, because I think this is related to a lot of ports actually. I think some of them is, for example, WinRM is 5985, SMB 455 or 445, DNS 53. I think here he's stated all of these ports. Okay, I didn't think he is clarifying the ports of the Active Directory. So okay, I think all of these ports are listed here. So all of these are listed down in the script. He's saying, or he's clarifying the ports and what services are using these ports. For example, here is the global catalog. Here is the netbuys. Okay, so anyway, we can see how we can know the ports are opened or closed, and simply you can close the port, I think, by disabling the service using the port. Okay, so I think okay, so I think uh, uh, let's see. Okay, I think closing the port is simply by closing the service. Okay, so this is very simple. Okay, so let's go and continue with the video. Well, I can ask, for example, the Claude, uh, how to disable this port. For example, how to disable port 1139. So this is simply by going to the network setting and disable or from the properties of the network connection and disable NetBIOS. Okay, this is normally how we can disable the port by disabling the service itself. So this is simple. Okay, uh, so this is very good. Now we can continue with the video. So here I'm just asking the so you can see here he is telling us that it is normally used by the NetBIOS, okay, protocol, and some you also the SMB, maybe it's using this port anyway. So this is how we can see the port. I think I have already showed you the program to do that. So now we can go further. Then we can go to the open or RDP is open. This is, we need to make sure that the port is opened. So here we can see how we can also disable the net bias over TCP/IP using a group policy. Anyway, there is a lot of ways to disable net bias, as we have seen here using the AI tools, how to disable. I think I have already seen this. Okay, if we go further, now we can go like that. Okay, I already said to my server. Okay, you can do this using the network connection setting or properties, or using the PowerShell. You can do a lot of things, or to disable the net bias using, for example, here we can see the summary. He's saying that you can disable it through the GUI, the network connection setting or properties, or using PowerShell. So you can do both ways. So this is an CPA.cpl. This is how you can open the network or the control panel, console. Okay, so tell him run, and then put there ncpl, and then here is the connection. Right click on properties, TCP/IP properties, and then we can see here. Okay, if we go to the wins, okay, here is disable net bias over TCP/IP. Okay, we can do that. So here you can get also if the net bias is disabled or not. From the PowerShell, you can go and type this command, and then press enter. We can see now, for example, I need to know the net bias over this network adapter. Okay, it's interface number 16. So we need to know if net bias is enabled on this network card or this network connection. So you are getting the network or the network connection numbers. Okay, by knowing the number, I can go now and take the other command to see if net bias is disabled or not. So we can get, here is to set the interface. Okay, so what we can do now, we can copy this command and then go there, paste it. Let me show you all here. Right click, copy, and then paste. Now what we need to do, we need to set here, we see that net bias is disabled. We need to put the interface index, which is for DC team. This is the network card. We need to disable net bias on it. We put here interface index 16, then net bias disable. Just a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Now we can continue with the video. Just wait a moment, guys, just a moment. So let's continue, guys. Now we can see that we can simply disable the NetBIOS port through PowerShell or through the network connection properties. Now we can see RDP is port is opened. We can take this PowerShell command and test the port if it is opened or not. Now we can put the domain controller. As you can see here, the port is not or the command is not recognized, so I'm asking the AI tool to provide me with the command to test the port using PowerShell. This is simply the command, or this is a script. You can do that, copy the script and just put your, if you have a remote computer or the local computer, so you can do both, I think. So you can put the computer name if it is local, or it is a remote computer. You can put the name of the remote computer to test the RDP port on a remote computer. You can do that, or on a local computer, or the port on the local computer. So I'm just pasting it. Now we can put the computer name. Here you go. Okay, we can put the IP address, by the way, 0.79.7, and then we can run and see if it is opened, it will be in green. If it's closed, it will be in red. So you can see it is testing the RDP port 3389. Now it is opened. So very simple command to test the RDP, and or any port, by the way. I think it can work for any port. So now we can go and continue with the tests. The RDP security, this simply can be done using group policy. So we can do that, and this is done or this is explained through this URL. Okay. First, we need to copy this command and see if it is enabled, or RDP security, or if the encryption is done on the RDP connection. But I think this command will not work. DCSM0125. So now, as you can see here, this is how we can do it through the group policy in a very simple way. So this is the connection. Now we can do this from the group policy in a very simple way. can open the group policy and do it. Actually, very, very simple. I think we will stop at this moment or at this point, and we can continue from this point the upcoming video. So we are closing the server. So we will continue the next video. Hope this video was informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.